Tucker Carlson has begun the process of releasing new, never-before-seen footage of January 6th. Kevin McCarthy gave him access to the video, perhaps the full video, so they've been reviewing it. And I think that this week, the whole week, they're going to be putting out new stuff. But the stuff that they put out yesterday is already great stuff. And I'm glad that they're focusing on key episodes and blowing the leftist narrative out of the water. Three examples stick out in my mind. The first one, of course, involves the shaman guy, the QAnon guy, so-called. Again, anyone who watched even the footage that was previously available could see this is a pretty harmless fellow. But what Tucker shows is two police officers literally escorting him through the Capitol. They go from corridor to room. In one case, the officers even give him open the door so that the guy can go in. They ultimately lead him into the chamber, where we then saw the footage of him kind of prancing around. Now, at one point, these two officers walk by 7 other officers, and the other officers are not even bothered. They hardly even look up. So the Capitol Police's official explanation, which is that, hey, the Capitol Police are outnumbered. They're kind of playing it low key because they fear that the crowd will overwhelm them. Then the footage dispels this as preposterous. The Capitol Police were in every position simply to tell this guy, listen, you have to leave now. Not at any point did they tell him to leave. So you're in the peculiar situation. You're a guy, you don't know about the Capitol. You're in the Capitol. You're obviously, in the case of this guy, something of an eccentric or maybe even a kook. And the police are themselves sort of showing you around. It's almost like you're a tourist. And yet this is a guy getting, what, 4 years in prison for this? This is outrageous. This is a scandal. Number 2, we see footage never seen before of Brian Sicknick, and what's telling is this. We see Brian Sicknick at a time when he's supposed to be dead. So media reports that are put out actually initially by the U.S. government, say Brian Sicknick was killed. New York Times, of course, falsely said he was killed with a fire extinguisher. But, and we've known that this Brian Sicknick narrative that they put out, and they put it out for a purpose. They wanted to show that the Trumpsters were the violent ones. We know now that that's not true. In fact, the only people killed, and I say people because it wasn't just Ashley Babbitt, but also Roseanne Boyland, were killed by the police shooting them or beating them. And but the narrative had to be that a cop was brutalized, and Sicknick became that candidate. But we've never seen Sicknick at the time when the Democrats said that Sicknick was killed. So it's very telling that we now can. Number 3, the left says that Josh Hawley was, quote, running for his life. And they show a video, and you see the video for only like 1.5 seconds, and Hawley appears to be running across a hallway. And the idea was, hey, here Hawley helped to foment this insurrection. Now, ha 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 ha. And you can see the media and the sort of Capitol Hill types all chuckling in a public video that the Democrats put on. The January 6th committee, of course, made a big deal of this. But Tucker shows that, first of all, the Capitol Hill police were ushering the senators and the congressmen out of the building. Hawley was in a larger group. It's just that he was the last guy in the group. So the January 6th committee selectively edited the footage, removed all the other people, only showed a couple of seconds with Hawley as if he alone was running for his life, whereas in fact, he's, first of all, not even leaving of his own volition. The Capitol Police are like, come on, get out of here, get out of here. And so Hawley's merely doing what he's told by the Capitol Hill Police, and this is now falsely portrayed. Now, the important point here is the January 6th committee knows all this. They had all this footage. So what did they do? They performed a real kind of Goebbels operation. They went through the footage and they realized, hey, listen, if we show 20 seconds, everybody will see Hawley's in a group. Let's cut all the other people out and only show Hawley. And this is going to get the media to like obediently laugh. Ha 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 ha. Here's Josh Hawley running for his life. So again, oh, we got Sicknick. This is supposed to be after he's dead. You know what? Let's not release that footage. That's not going to make our side look good. That doesn't support our narrative. The shaman guy, in fact, they probably have all kinds of footage of the cops interacting with people, taking photos of them, smoking cigarettes because they got nothing to do. All of this is on tape. But you see what happens when you allow a kind of Goebbels operation. You get one side of the story. Nobody cross-examines. Nobody produces other footage. Nobody goes, but what about this? Or let's provide the full context for what you're showing. Yeah, this guy seems to be pushing back at the cops, but isn't it true that the cops basically hit him with spray first, or they started punching him without provocation, and then he begins to push back? So at the very least, we need to know what the full situation really is. Now, Goebbels, the great propagandist, once said that you don't judge propaganda by whether it's true or false. Good propaganda is judged by the fact that it works. People believe it, even if it's a lie. Bad propaganda is when people don't believe it. I think by this standard, we have to say that the January 6th committee was a Goebbels-like operation, and they produced good propaganda. I'm nominating Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger for the Goebbels Prize. I think they have to probably share it, because probably Cheney is the real winner, but Kinzinger was obviously a willing kind of Goebbels sidekick. So the two of them need to jointly be given this award, and I'd be happy to administer an appropriate ceremony if they will agree to accept the award. Now, some conservatives are saying in response to all this that, see, we told you it's not an insurrection. See, we told you these people aren't domestic terrorists. And I think this is kind of misses the point of why the left calls them these things, why they use these names. They use these names not because they think it's an insurrection. They actually know it's not also. They don't use domestic terrorists just because they're exaggerating. Oh, it's political hyperbole. No. They're doing it to demonize these people, to dehumanize them, to make them targets for to make them targets for charges of sedition and conspiracy, to lock them up for years. In other words, the left calls the January 6th protesters domestic terrorists for the same reason that, say, Stalin called the kulaks parasites, because he wanted to kill them. And Hitler called the Jews vermin because he wanted to make them wear the Star of David and segregate them and ruin their lives. And ultimately, in his case as well, kill them. So the dehumanization serves a deeply vicious purpose. It's not just that the left is, quote, wrong about using these labels. They're using these labels with insidious intent.